This week on the Ocean Cruisers podcast, we're speaking with James Evenson from the YouTube sailing channel Sailing Zingaro. James spent his youth between Washington and California before joining the Navy to work on nuclear submarines as a quartermaster and a technician. After serving in the Navy, James decided to save up some cash and start a journey travelling around the world by sailboat. He started his journey on a 37-foot Crowther catamaran which he sailed through the Caribbean and across the Pacific, pushing the boat to its limits before buying an Oyster 485. James is ready to cross the Atlantic and begin the next chapter of his mission. If you want to follow James's journey, check out his YouTube sailing channel, Sailing Zingaro. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, watch the interviews on YouTube, and download the audio on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
If you'd like to become a supporter of the podcast, consider becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/Ocean Cruisers.
So you play guitar and drums, man. We need a jam. I play guitar too.
Yeah, guitar and drums. I did guitar in one band. That was like a Sabbath, Zeppelin, Deep Purple type of tribute band.
I love it.
I played drums in my own band, and that was like I wrote some of the riffs for it. So it was kind of like Tool, the band.
Oh yeah, I love Tool. That's one of my favorite bands.
Oh, same, right? Yeah. So my favorite drummer is Danny Carey out of Tool. So yeah, in the band where we wrote our own music, that was like heavily inspired by like Tool. Nowhere near as good, obviously, because I wouldn't be doing this if it was. You know, I'd be a millionaire making music.
I was a singer in a Tool tribute band. I was Maynard.
Man, that's hard being a singer in a Tool tribute band.
Yeah, we weren't that good either. Yeah, that's or else I'd be making millions.
Right, that must be quite hard on the vocal cords.
Do you know Ronnie James Dio then, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
His keyboardist, his name is Claude Schnell, and I was in a band with him in LA. And he was in his 50s at that point, but he was an amazing pianist. He had a 1886 Steinway D at his house, and he like took it all apart for me. And really cool story, actually. The piano tutor came over one day when we were practicing, and we had to stop, and I was talking to him, and he was an old guy, didn't use any equipment, just used his ear. And he said, any instrument that you have that's open, that's wood, all sound waves depreciate by half-life. And those sound waves never really go away. They're just imperceptible to your ear now. But like, if you think about it, the energy that is still bouncing around inside that instrument of all the people that ever owned it. So when people say that instruments have an energy, it's absolutely true. And this is why. I was like,
yeah, well, they're molded by what you play in them as well. Like, especially with anything that's made out of wood, anything string, piano, anything like that. It changes the way that they actually play. So yeah, it's important. I didn't know you were a rocker, mate. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I didn't know you were either. We had to jam if we ever meet up.
Yeah, we'll be in the Caribbean eventually one day. Well, it'll be in the future. We've got a plan, and yeah, this is part of the plan. That's getting
what is it
finished now and underway. Well,
you're on a Moody, right?
Sold it. Yeah. So, what we've got now, it's like, to be honest, man, we could circumnavigate in that boat. It's strong. It's a Moody 34. But yeah, we've got like kids. Yeah, they're solid, mate. They're really good. But yeah, we've got like kids and a couple animals, and we're going to do charters for like making money so we're going to like circumnavigate and like do like probably like 10 weeks of chartering, but like exclusive type of chartering in nice locations, like teach people how to sail and maintain engines and all that type of shit. And so we're going to get a bigger boat for that, but we need to we bought a house that was basically way too big, and it was just destroyed when we bought it with the intention of finishing it up.
I just had an interview with and met Ryan from Sail Libra. Have you ever heard of him before?
Yeah.
He'd be a good resource for you if you could do something like he does.
Yeah, that's the intention. We figured out if we can do about 10 weeks of chartering, that'll basically give us enough cash to just like cruise all year and maintain the boat, which we're pretty happy with. We've done the corporate stuff and we're sick of it. So yeah, we're just ready to like chill out now. But so anyway, we've always like done up houses, and this last one we got in Spain was just way too big. It was way too big of a project, and I was always intending and working and then doing it part-time, but I just can't. So this year I'm stopping work and I'm just getting the house finished, but it's like a mental amount of work to do. So I've got my work.
Yeah, you said, we were supposed to start this half an hour ago and you had a busted pipe. That's so funny, man. This is like just like my boat. It's the same thing.
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same. Yeah,
Are you flipping houses?
Yeah, we have done in the past. We stopped like last year. So yeah, last year we sold like the last two that we flipped with. And yeah, we're just holding on to the cash now, which I don't even know is a good idea. Like what's going on with the economy in the world is just crazy at the moment. So like, I don't know. Some people are saying buy gold. Other people are saying like buy Bitcoin. I'm like, I have no idea what to do with this. So I'm just going to keep it on me. Hope inflation doesn't kill us. We'll see.
Yeah. Just live your life, man.
Yeah, that's just trying to forget about it all. So yeah, we've got like probably about a year's worth left of doing this up and just getting stuff ready. And then we're going to head off. We're going to get like a bigger Gino and bugger off. I'd love to get like a 50-foot Moody, but I also need about $1 million for that. So that ain't happening.
My buddy's on a 54 Gino, and those are really nice boats. I mean, I love the Moody.
That's what we're going to get
too. Yeah, those are great boats, man. Do it.
Yeah, that's what we're aiming for. The Gino 54 DS. It's just, you know,
yeah, that's like, the boat.
Yeah, they're really good, man. It's like, but they've maintained like some really good quality features that you'd get with a proper blue water cruising boat, like the shape of the hull, the way the furniture is put together inside the deck. Like it's a good boat. Like they are good.
Yeah, man. My thought on that is just sail it until you break it. Doesn't matter what kind of boat, as long as you're happy with it and it's comfortable for you, just rock it, man. It's a toy, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's the plan, man. So yeah, hopefully, I think we're going to be in the Med for about 4 years, and then we're coming over to the Caribbean. I don't know how long I'm going to spend in the Caribbean. We'll just have to like see what life throws at us. But yeah, then circumnavigate. Definitely going all the way around. Getting into the Pacific, need to see some of those little islands, and yeah, through Asia, all that stuff. Can't wait. It's where life starts.
Yeah, man. I mean, you've got enough. I was checking out your podcast, and you've met some of like the coolest sailors. So, a lot of them are my friends, and you've got such a good resource there. All you have to do is just call and be like, "Hey, yeah, this is Andy. I'm going here. What do you think?" And then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, go here."
Yeah, it's good. You know, like one philosophy that we've got when we're going into this is like, I do not want to leave any country that we go to until we have been to like every single anchorage, seen every monument or statue, whatever there is. Because like, if I go on Instagram like 2 years later and someone's posted a photo of an anchorage in like, you know, Antigua that I've not been to, I'm going to be like, shit, we have to go back because that was nice and we didn't see it. So, so that's the idea. Create like a mega list and see everything.
Yeah, I love it. Do it.
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
Right, we need to talk about your story.
Okay.
And
sure.
What you've done with your life, quite a bit. You've had a pretty exciting one. So right back to the beginning. Because what I find is when I speak to people who listen to the podcasts, they are super interested in like your lifestyle and how you've got there, but they want to know like the details of how you actually made this life happen. Because most of them are inspiring to do the same type of stuff that you do.
Okay.
So yeah, it would be great to know like what type of person you were before you actually got into this, and then what encouraged you to get into it, and like what life changes you had to make. All this type of stuff is really interesting to people.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, keeping that in mind, it's a little bit of a long story, but I'll give you the whole thing.
That's good, man. Yeah, go for it.
I was born in Washington State, but my father is from Santa Monica, California, and I feel like I was born to be a beach bum, but I was born in the wrong spot. And every time he would fight with my mom and be like, "Boy, pack your shit. We're leaving. We're going to Santa Monica." I'd be like, "Yes." And then they'd always make up. And I didn't get to go to Santa Monica. And so when I wanted to get out, man. And when I was 17, I left, and I was just a dipshit for about a year. And then I went in the Navy, and the Navy really like shaped me as a man. It kind of like it was my transition from boyhood to adulthood, and they gave me like a good place for some role models and stuff, which I needed it. And it taught me a lot. So I think the Navy was like the linchpin of this life for me. I've always kind of been a presenter. Like I would do shows and stuff for my parents and my neighbors and stuff like that. So maybe that's got something to do with it. But as far as like the water aspect of it, I have been drawn to the water since birth, and I don't know why, but I went in the Navy and I was on submarines for 5 years. I was a
Oh, wow.
quartermaster. So I was the guy that plotted and dotted on charts. And there's no, actually, they were just setting up digital charts. They call them digital charts, like charts that everybody uses now, but they were just getting them in the Navy in 99 when I was there. So I helped set up the first digital chart on the sub, but that only works on the surface. So once you're down below, GPS doesn't do shit underwater. It doesn't go through the water. So by the way, do you want me to stop cursing?
No, curse all you want.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm a sailor, man. I got a sailor's mouth.
Yeah, it's fine.
I usually just bleep it out on the video version. So where was I? Oh yeah, I'm in the Navy now, and I'm a quartermaster in the Navy. Everybody's got 3 jobs on a sub. So I was the quartermaster, the ice seaman, and the nav ET. So basically, what that is the quartermaster plots and dots on charts, preps all the charts, makes sure we don't hit any underwater mountains, keeps us in operating areas. It's a very important job. It's only one of like 5 people on board that actually knows our position, which was very cool. And it made me, I had such a change in my personality during that phase of my life. Like the first 3 years of the Navy, the first year I was learning. The second year I was still learning, and like the third, fourth, and fifth years I was this badass quartermaster that was super important, and it just made me feel good about myself, for the first time. I had some real, like, look what I've done.
Real responsibility as well.
Yeah, it was really neat. The last year in the Navy, unfortunately, I was really bored because I wasn't being challenged anymore, and I'm a person that has to be challenged, and I was kind of stuck, and I just wanted to get on with my life. So they offered me, I think, like 60 grand to reenlist. And I was like, Captain, I'm sorry. Actually, my captain came up to me and he was like, James, I could really use you on this next deployment. And I said, Captain, I could really use the money, but I've got some plans. And this is leading into the sailings part of it. So I had a buddy there. His name was Rob Mudd. He was my best friend. He was a nuke ET, cool dude, real smart. Me and him were roommates together in Georgia. I was stationed in Georgia, and he was the type of guy that I had a boat. I had a wakeboarding boat. I loved to wakeboard, and we would go take that thing out like every day and never wash it off because it was like in a brackish river, and the mosquitoes would come out as soon as the sunset. So we would go like from the end of work until sunset every day, and then just run into the house, like try to clean the boat up, but the trailer just got totally screwed. So I had to buy a new trailer for it. So he took the old trailer and like welded it apart, fixed all the rusty spots, made it into a double Sea-Doo trailer, and then bought 2 Sea-Doos that were bad, rebuilt the engines in them, and then we had a wakeboarding boat and 2 Sea-Doos just because this guy was like a maniac, kind of mechanic guy. And he was also a sailor and also always like tried to get me to go sailing with him. And I was like, man, I don't want to go sailing. I want to go wakeboarding. Like, why would I want to go 8 miles an hour? And like seriously. And I never really went with him. And then when I got out of the Navy, he stayed in, and my boat moved from Georgia through the Panama Canal up to Hawaii. And I had never been to Hawaii. And this is the kind of guy Rob was. He flew me to Hawaii and gave me $400 for the time that I was missing work, just so I could experience Hawaii with him. Because I was like, bro, I don't have it. He's like, I'll let you borrow it, man. I want you to experience this while I'm here, because I'm only going to be here another year and a half. And I, like at the time I was young and stupid and didn't realize like how important that friendship was to me. Anyway, he died sailing around Hawaii. He got a slip in Pearl Harbor, which is very difficult to get a slip in. And there's like a 20-year waiting list or something. So he was keeping his boat on the north side of the island. This is Oahu I'm talking about. And he went around, and in Hawaii, if you guys have ever been to Hawaii or sailed in Hawaii, they have these storms called konas. A lot of places have different wind reversal storms that they call different things. In Panama, they're called culo de pollo or chicken ass storms. But they're basically the same thing. It's like this really, really small scale hurricane that happens very, very fast. And it's usually like 15 to 30 minutes, but it rips. It's like 40, 50 knots of wind, like wind reverses, it rips whatever fetch you have. It's got 6-foot waves in the anchorage. And this happens all the time in Hawaii. So he got caught in one of these on his way down. And this is something you really can't forecast. There's ways that you can do it. Like depending on the temperature of the water and the temperature of the air and the way that the wind is flowing, you have to have a lot of local knowledge usually to know, like, it's like, you know, an old man that has his bones ache and he's like, oh, there's some weather coming, and then it comes. It's kind of like that. So like, seriously.
Yeah, this happens. Yeah,
culo de pollo is coming right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, he got caught in a culo de pollo, and his rudder broke. He got off into his life raft. They found his body in his wetsuit with a pelican case tied to him with his phone in it. He was firing off flares. He was doing everything right, but the Coast Guard said they came out to the beach and the waves were like 7 feet breaking. So there's nothing they can do. They couldn't even get in the water. And that was like a pretty rough spot of Oahu. The south side, there's some spots that are rocky and really nasty. So basically they could hear him from the beach, which is really sad. And the wave, you know, came up and he got caught in it and he just couldn't get out of it. He couldn't swim through.
Couldn't get out.
Yeah, so he ended up dying, and it was always his dream to go around the world. It wasn't mine. And after he died, I was like, well, you know, what was Rob into? I want to try it out. So I, on a whim, just bought a boat. I went and looked around and found one that I liked. It was an Islander 28. I paid, I think, $6,000 for it. And I didn't know how to sail at all. After I bought the boat, I didn't know what I was doing. The guy, you know, he could have been selling me a total turd. Actually, the boat was really nice. I got really lucky. It was a Bob Perry designed boat. It sailed like a Banshee. It was awesome. Side note, that boat, the motor, I blew the motor in that boat like maybe 3 months after I had it. And I used to sail it in and out of the slip in Marina del Rey, one of the biggest small boat harbors in the world. And that's really where I learned to sail. Anyway, so I buy this Islander. This is a funny story. So I don't know how to sail it. And I get online. I get on Craigslist. This is the Craigslist times. I'm dating myself again. And I find this guy that's like, hey, I'm a captain. I'm a racer. I'll teach you how to sail for $40 an hour or whatever it was, $40 a day. I think it was a day. And so I get on this guy's boat. He's got a Moody 27. That's all slicked out for racing. He had like taken all the through holes out of it, taken the engine out of it, glassed everything over, made the bottom really, really smooth. And he was winning all the races. And all the guy did the whole damn time was smoke cigarettes and drink beer. And I was like, bro, what are you doing? What is that? What is this? And he's like, you just fill the sails with wind. Just, you know what? You'll learn this on your second lesson. And I was like, you dick. What? Okay. And his name, the boat name was Blow Me, like just to give you an idea of this guy's personality.
An idea who this guy is, right? Okay.
Yeah. But come to find out, I'm still friends with him. Bob Gray, if you're watching, you're the man. He was a badass racer. Like he was winning all the races in his class in Marina del Rey and in California. He would fly around. He was a really good sailor. So for him, it wasn't so much like him trying to get me to go to another lesson. It was just so second nature to him that he really didn't know how to teach anything, you know.
It's probably not the best teacher. Good
so but it was great for me because what I thought was, well, if this asshole can do it, I can do it. And it just like prodded me to go out. And I used to take that boat out like every day. I used to go to Catalina Island every weekend. Well, not every weekend, probably like 3 weekends a month. And then I would go night sailing a lot. I would take that boat out like every single time I had a chance. I really fell in love with sailing. And she was really nimble and easy to sail. And one time I was coming back in and the sea tow guy was following me in and I was tacking and I got really close. He taught me to get really close. I sailed with him more after that. He taught me to get really close to boats. Like, you know, when you're tacking up a channel, you want to use the maximum amount of space. You don't want to be tacking up the middle third of the channel. Right before you hit a boat, you just tack and then freak out the people if they're on the boat. It's pretty fun. And this guy, the Cito guy, is following me in, and I get in, I get into the slip and dock my boat, and he comes up to me and he's like, "Man, I just got to shake your hand. I've never seen anybody do that. I thought you were in trouble. I was calling out to you, and I was like, oh, that's cool of you to say, man." And then I thought at that time, like, I'm a badass. I'm such a badass sailor. I can do this. I had no idea. So I end up, I was after the Navy, I told you I had 3 jobs in the Navy. I was a quartermaster, an eye seaman, and a nav ET. So I already told you what the quartermaster does, but the eye seaman was the interior communications guy. So basically I learned how to solder on board level solder and take resistors out and figure out if a capacitor is bad in a walkie-talkie or something. And so I handled all of the sound powered phones, the walkie-talkies, the lighting panels, and then as far as the nav ET, I handled the sonar, the fathometer, the radar, both the military radar and the Furuno radar, because we had two, because the military radars just sucked. I mean, I don't know if they still do, but it was horrible. It was like trying to make a Volvo from 1935, compete with a Ferrari from 2020. It was that it was that bad. And so nobody trusted the military radar. So they made us haul this 120-pound huge Furuno radar up the sail. And the sail is that, like, the part that sticks up on the submarine.
Yeah.
So we have to put this thing around our waist and climb that damn thing and then like mount it on the top. And I swear to God, it's like a bunch of monkeys that are just, okay, well, this will work. And you pin it and hopefully it stays. And it was really funny, but that thing worked so much better than the military radar that, we had to do that every time. So anyway, I learned how to work on electronics, and I pretty much made my career after the Navy doing that. I got a job in Gloucester, Massachusetts. I loved living in Massachusetts. That only lasted for a couple of years. I got bored doing that, and I was a basically I was a field tech for people that made like big equipment, like that place. I worked on semiconductors, so I worked on ion implanters. It's one of the machines that make computer chips. There's like 9 machines, big $7 million machines, lots of systems. Very cool how they work. That's a different story though. But basically it's like a light bulb. Anyway, and then after that job, I kind of just bounced around. I've never really held a job for that long. I'm kind of I have a novelty seeking personality. And I've always thought that was a horrible thing. I've been taught in my life, especially by my parents, although my parents were awesome, that not being able to hold a job is a bad thing. But now, recently, I've been reading a lot more. And like with my personality type, I need to be challenged. I need to have some kind of novelty. I need to have, like, I'm that kind of personality. So it's not really a bad thing. And it has made me who I am today. So I quit the job from the semiconductor company and I moved to Florida. Finally, I'm a beach bum in Florida. It was awesome. I lived right on the canals in Florida with the guy with a couple boats, and we had a pond. Nice. It was the first time in my life I had a pontoon boat. Have you ever had a pontoon boat or been on a pontoon boat?
Yeah, I've been on them. Yeah, that's really cool.
Oh my God, they're so fun, man. I would never have guessed that pontoon boats would be so fun, but it's just basically like a living room that floats and you can have fun with all your friends. And I mean, almost more fun than a sailboat, right? But it just doesn't go anywhere. And, you have to listen to the motor and stuff. But for Florida, it was great because on the intercoastal, there's really not a lot of waves. So we would just
flat as well, so it's perfect.
Yeah, it was great. And they used to have, I don't know if they still do, all these big parties where 1,000 boats would go and raft up together. And we would take that thing and oh my God, it was just amazing.
That's quite unique, actually, turning up to a flotilla in a pontoon boat.
Oh, dude, it was so fun. We had a bimini on it. It was like, seriously, we had like 18 people on that thing more often than not, and it was just a big party. It was great. Definitely recommend the flotilla pontoon boat action.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos of those things getting into some choppy water, and that's the only issue with them. One wave goes straight over the top, and then the entire thing just sinks. Actually, in Gibraltar, near where we are, there is like a company that have basically taken, it's like aluminium tubes. I mean, I don't know what they're actually made, but it's aluminium
basically
tubes. So they put like 1-bedroom apartments on them, and then there's just like slips inside the marina near Gibraltar where they're just renting those out like on Airbnb. But they're really cool. They've got like a roof terrace on the top. You get an electric bike with every single one. They're fantastic.
Oh, I absolutely am going to rent one of those. I'm glad that you told me about that. I'm actually on my way to Gibraltar in about 2 months, 3 months.
Oh, no way.
My buddy's given me his, he bought a brand new Bavaria 57C in 2018, and he cruised it for the last 3 or 4 years, and now he wants it back in the Ibiza to sell it. So he's like, bro, if you take my boat from Annapolis to Ibiza, you can have it for as long as you want. Go wherever you want. I'll pay for it. Just deliver it there, and I'll party with you in Ibiza and then send you home. I was like, I can't say no to that, you know? And so I'm going to do
we need to hook up for this. I'm like 1 hour away from Gibraltar, and Ibiza is my cruising ground.
Well, I'm looking for a crew for the whole ride, man. So if you want to go, we're doing on Annapolis, Bermuda. I got a really good friend, a couple of good friends in Bermuda, and then Azores, Gibraltar, and then Ibiza. So if you want to join me for any or all of those legs, I would love to host, bro.
Man, maybe Azores to Ibiza. That would sound like a good one.
God, sweet. I'm going to hold you to that.
Hey, I'll hold you to that. Don't worry about that. I'm up for that.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, that'll be a fun one. It's a comfy boat. It's a cool boat. You'll like it.
Yeah.
Okay. So where am I at now? I'm in Florida. I still haven't gotten a boat yet. This is like 2 years after I got out of the Navy, and I'm getting bored. I get a job in California. So,
okay.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I met a girl, French girl, and we moved to Paris for a little while. like I moved to Paris for like 11 months. And
that's a long time. Right. Okay.
Actually, to be completely honest, here's the real story. The girl and I, the girl was a little nuts, but she was beautiful. I'm still very good friends with her. I ended up marrying her. We moved to Paris, and she was suicidal, and she jumped out of the 4-story window. So I wake up one night, and we were drinking, and I was, passed out drunk. I wake up and there's 10 cops in my house. They arrest me. There's blood all over the outside, and they won't tell me where where my girlfriend is. And I go to jail that night for attempted murder in Paris. And the only way I got out of it was 2 days later, they found a suicide note that she had wrote to her mom, and her mom got me out of it. So I had to go through that. And after
you were married to her at that point?
No, I married her after that.
Right.
So I had a decision to make. My mom was like, look, I'll send you a ticket, and you can come home and, get over this. And this girl's unstable. You should probably, but I felt like I really loved her, man. And I felt like leaving her was like the worst option I could do. Like if I was in that state, I wouldn't want
situation.
Yeah. Exactly. So I stayed, and I got a job there. I ended up starting my own company, remodeling houses, doing what you're doing now, actually. Yeah. So maybe in reciprocity, you come cook for me, and I'll come remodel your house for a week. So.
Very good deal. I get to sail a shitload, and you can build my house. Yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah. Okay. So I really thrived in Paris. I really loved it there. And then I wanted to be a rock star because like I told you before, I'm a rocker. So we moved to LA, and hold on one sec. Let me just.
No, go for it, man. It's fine.
Sorry. This thing, problem with these cameras is that there's no way to change the settings on them and how long they'll record. So some cameras only record for half an hour and just shut off.
Oh yeah, and then they shut down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even if you have external power, it's the weirdest thing. It's like an unsettable setting. Okay, so we moved to LA so I can be a rock star, which it was really a fun time in my life. I was in a lot of bands. I told you I was in that band with Claude Schnell. I learned so much about music. I went to music school, which was one of my dreams. So I really don't regret any part of that. But I had delusions of grandeur, and at least I tried. You never regret.
You gave it a shot.
You try.
Yeah.
So, and I really liked LA. There was a few things I didn't like about it. Like some of the people, I'm not a person that like uses other people to gain notoriety, but that's kind of like the feeling I had from a lot of people in LA. Well. Yeah. It's really hard to meet like genuine people, but I did. And I still have some friends from there. And that's where I started living on boats. I ended up marrying that girl, and then we got divorced after a couple of years. And then I bought a boat, and I was living with another girl, and we broke up, and I didn't have a place. I had moved in with her. And so I was like, well, I'll just stay on the boat for a little while until I figure out what I'm going to do. And I realized, like, I don't know why this never crossed my mind before, but boats are always in primo real estate. I mean, like, I was in Venice, California, like right next to is Marina del Rey. But if you understand anything about Hollywood and Venice, Venice is like, I think we were paying $1,800 for a 1-bedroom. And then my boat was like a half a mile away on the water, and I was paying $400 a month. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not moving. This is great. And I can take my apartment to Catalina. Yeah. Which I'm sure a lot of people have had this like eureka moment with boating, you know, like, whoa, this is the way to go. The problem is in Marina del Rey, and actually most of Southern California, it's very hard to get a liveaboard. Yeah, it's very difficult to get a liveaboard slip. And actually those pontoon boats that you're talking about, there's like a handful of these houseboats left that are grandfathered in, but no houseboats are allowed anymore. They're actually tearing down the old marinas and making like these huge marinas with big, huge boat docks. And they're trying to push out the little boats. So they're making it very, very difficult for people to do that anymore, unfortunately. But at this time, there was all these shitty marinas. It was really fun. I got kicked out of like every single one because I had a dog. I had a Rottweiler at the time. So it was me and my 130-pound Rottweiler. Yeah. And he was super nice, but he was like, you know, territorial. So I had to hide him. And I would take him to work. And I was working kind of a bunch of different jobs. I ended up getting a job there before I got there, working for a microdermabrasion manufacturing company. And I got fired after 2 days. So
what did you do?
I was the guy that fixed all the stuff for the factory. Like,
what did you do? You got fired.
Oh, well, they didn't label one of the outlets as 220, and I plugged in this really expensive soldering iron, and it blew up. And they were super pissed. And I'm like, guys, you got to label the fucking outlets. Like, how am I supposed to know that? Oh, whatever. And then, like, as soon as I spoke up and told them, like, I should have just like bowed my head and tucked my tail between my legs, but I'm not that guy. So yeah, I kind of screwed myself. And I didn't yell. I was just like, guys, like, this is not my fault. Like, obviously this needs to be labeled. Whoever did this is an idiot. But yeah, you can't call the management an idiot on your second day.
Did they not give you in the debrief in the intro? They didn't
no. There was no. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was no intro. It was just like here you go. Work. Our guy quit, and this is it. And it was like this pile of crazy shit. That was an interesting. So then I was like, what am I going to do for money? I need to support my wife. She can't work here because she's French. I have to like figure out something, right? So I started doing background acting. I started speccing for jobs. I had like 5 jobs. I was just going around, you know, like busting my butt, trying to do whatever I could. It was fun. I actually had a really good time at that time. Didn't have any money, but I was surrounded by all these actors and people that were driven and, you know, singers. And I was like, well, do I want to be an actor? Do I want to be a rock star? Do I like, at that time, the whole world was my oyster, and it was really fun. And
how old were you at this point when you were there? Like, what age were you then?
I was trying to think about that while I was telling this story. I think I was like 26. I think I'm 26 at this point.
Right. Just like
26, 27, 28. Yeah. And I'm single most of the time. I mean, I'm dating, but single with my puppy on my boat. And I had a few different boats. This Oyster is number 5. And it was just such a fun time because I had all these friends with boats, and we would take all of our boats together to Catalina. And Catalina they actually have the Catalina wine mixer now, just because of that movie Step Brothers. Have you ever seen that movie?
So that wasn't real before, but they made it real because of that movie.
No, that was a completely made up thing, and then they started doing it.
And then they made it real.
It's just a Catalina wine mixer, man. Yeah.
Man, Will Ferrell is just changing the world in so many ways. What a hero he is. What a hero.
Yeah, he's a hero. But they did have this pirate festival there every year. Actually 2. They started with 1, right. and then they wanted to do 2, like, so to juxtapose like to the one in the winter and one in the summer. And even in the winter in Southern California, it's not that bad. The water's always cold. It's kind of always the same temperature. It comes off the currents coming down from Alaska, so it's, you know, like the water gets progressively warmer, but it doesn't really get warm until you get into like Baja. which also was an awesome thing. That's where I got into spearfishing while I lived there. I would drive down to Baja and drive to Cabo and like spearfish all the way down in Baja. It was badass. I loved doing that. Every year I would take a solo trip down with my puppy. Anyway, so I'm living on the boat. I'm about 26, 27, 28 now. I started working for this company that was paying me really well. There was a company out of Kansas, and really good company to work for. And I started saving my money. It was water jet equipment. So like they cut like granite and steel, and actually they can cut through steel like this thick with water. Yeah. You're familiar with that technology. Yeah. I was working on the high pressure pumps. So I was working for the company that made the high pressure pumps, and they basically gave me Canada, United States, and Mexico. And at this time I spoke passable Spanish. So they gave me Mexico too. So I would just like drive around and fly around and fix these things. So it's a great job for me because it was always a changing locale. It was always a changing problem. It was always challenging. And I was the hero. Like everywhere I went, I was the guy that like, yeah, your shit's fucked up. And yeah. I would fly in, and this is costing these people like $300 an hour, and it's a couple days, and I would fly in and fix it, and they'd be like, "Oh, thank you, James. Can we take you out to lunch? Can we do this?" It was so cool. I started working like on the side for people that would be like, "James, I would just like you to come in like every month and just, check over my thing. I'll give you $1,000. Done. Sure, no problem." And so I would work weekends. I would work, I was like, I've never been one to really budget, but I was very conscious about how much money I was spending. And I wasn't spending a lot on rent because I had the boat. So I was just pocketing all the money. And after about 4 years, I had about 135 grand, I think. Oh, and then I was so sick of this job that because by this point I had mastered that technology, and it just wasn't challenging for me anymore. Plus the politics for working for corporate is just, you know how that goes. Yeah. I ended up moving to Maui. I got my captain's license first because I had all that sea time from the Navy, and it counted for my captain's license. So I got a 100-ton license with a sail endorsement and a towing endorsement, just because it's easy. You basically just pay for that. And then I realized later that I was so happy and so proud, like, yeah, I'm a real captain. But like, people bullshit through that. Like, anybody can give you a captain. I mean, you don't even have to have any sea time. You can just get somebody else to sign off for it. It's really funny. Yeah. The RYA version, though, they're real captains. Like, if you have an RYA license, you know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, you need to prove the miles as well. I've recorded all mine, like, on camera. So
yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. The U.S. Coast Guard, it's a little bit easier. They may have changed it, but I had the miles. I mean, but some of them, the reason that I got 100-ton was because I was on the submarine.
Yeah, with the RYA, I think to do the Yachtmaster, it's 2,600 nautical miles, but I think 600 of them have to be offshore or something. I don't know. Anyway, you have to put you do have to put the miles in. Like, you do have to have the experience. Otherwise, you can't even qualify to get on the course.
2,600 is a lot of miles. It would take a lot of trips to Catalina for that. Let's see, 70 miles round trip. You do the math.
Yeah, you're going to be doing it for a while. Yeah. Well, that I crossed the Atlantic this year, and that's the reason why I did it. Because I think I had, if I calculated them all together, I probably had a few thousand. But I was like, there's no way I'm even bothering with that. So yeah, Atlantic crossing, you get like 2.5 in straight away. So easy, just tick it off and it's
perfect. Done.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Did you do that on your own boat or on someone else's?
No, with a couple of friends who I've been sailing with them quite a while. Whenever they do any offshore stuff and they need a hand, they just give me a shout, and I go down there and help them out. And they're now, they're in Martinique now. Yes, they're chilling out in Martinique or somewhere around there. Might be St. Martin or something, I don't know. But yes, that was like a little Beneteau 361 Clipper. So cool. Yeah, it's quite a light boat for crossing the Atlantic. I think it's like 5 tons. So yeah, not much sleep. But good experience anyway. You need to pay attention, you know what I mean? It's not like a big 60-footer where you can set your sails and you got your alarms and then you can go and chill out. Like, you have to actually pay attention. You have to sail the boat. So yeah, it was good.
I love being offshore, man. I've totally fallen in love with making passages. Some people like it, some people don't. If you have a propensity to get seasick, you usually don't really like it, but I don't. And I've only been sick a few times, and I love it. It's so nice to be able to unplug. And man, when I first started cruising, I actually got rid of my cell phone for like a good 6 months, 8 months, I think. I didn't even have a phone because I had a kitty. Well, let me finish the story. So I had 130 grand now. I had my captain's license. I also got my PADI instructor license. So I was thinking I could work as a scuba instructor and diver, whatever. I could run a dive boat or something. So I got in touch with a guy in Maui, and I was like, look, I got these credentials. I got this experience. I'd like to work for you. And he's like, yeah, you're cool. Sweet. Come over. And so I got that job before I even got to Maui, quit my job. And then I was looking for a cruising boat to buy with this money I had. I didn't really need the money. I just wanted something to do, so I wasn't burning through all the money I've been saving up. So, which was an awesome decision. Working and living in Maui was so different than working in Southern California and living in Southern California. Such cool people. I mean, I still have an 808 number. I still do the shaka. And I wasn't even there that long. It just had such a powerful effect on me that I think that's the best state in the whole United States. If I ever go back, that's where I'm living.
Oh, nice.
Right. So I ran a dive boat there for like 4 or 5 months. And then I found my cruising boat, Zingaro, the catamaran, which was a 1984 Crowther cat designed in 1979 by Crowther. Crowther was a very prolific designer with over 2,000 boats to his name. And most notably for your listeners, probably, is the designer of the first katana catamarans. So my boat was like version 0.1 of katana. There was a few after that, and then he realized, like, every time he made another catamaran design, he would like, now they changed the design a little bit to say, okay, it's more comfortable if we don't put so much camber in it, and then if we cant out the hulls, it's got a little bit more stability when it heels over. All that stuff he was learning as he went. So mine was one of the learning boats, which is really cool if you really get down into the design of it, because I've super nerded out into that now, because I had the boat end up ripping in half. So it was a design flaw and it was a building flaw that ended up doing that. And I wanted to really understand like how that all worked together. So I fly to Florida one way, and I like this boat. I actually was going to look at two boats. One was Zingaro, the one that I bought, and the other one was Adrenaline, the one that my buddy Billy bought on Tula's Endless Summer. If you guys have ever seen that channel, I was slated to look at his boat, the second one, but I just fell in love with this one. I bought it on the spot. It was the first boat I really looked at, and I didn't have to think about it very long. It was basically like, he's like, well, do you want the boat or not? And it was in such good shape. I was like, yeah, sure. And then I wrote him a check for $65,000, which is the most money at that point I had ever spent on anything. And I was like sweating bullets, and we were talking about maybe like changing it into gold coins, and like, that's how I could start the YouTube channels.
Handing over the doubloons.
Like, like total pirate style. But they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't even give me the cash. I was like, can I just have the cash and give them cash? And they're like, no, we have to like request that much cash. And then, so it was the banks aren't very, very, they don't have senses of humor in there, I guess.
Yeah.
I think they gave me like 20 grand or something. They're like, we can give you 20 grand for 5 minutes, but then you need to give it back.
That's nuts, man. You can go to your bank and you're like, can I please have my money? And they're like, no, but if you write a piece of paper, we'll give your pretend money to somebody else in their pretend.
Exactly.
It doesn't even exist. That's nuts.
Yeah. No. You want real money? Oh, no. We don't have that.
Yeah. Don't know what that is.
It's right. Okay. So I buy this boat, and I end up moving in this guy's backyard. Mark, I call him Padre now because he's like my second father. He was such a cool dude. He was a cruiser and a very successful merchant marine, and just a smart dude. Like, everything he did, he was an engineer. Like, just every single thing was like, okay, what if we do it this way? It's better this way. It'll be stronger this way. Sweet dude to learn from. So that was my introduction to cruising, which was this like great mentor. And after I took that boat to Easter Island, and I called him from Easter Island, and I'm like, Padre, I'm in freaking Easter Island with your boat, man. He's like, bro, I am so proud of you. It was a really good feeling. So I'm working on this boat and I have no idea what I'm doing. When I first saw it, it was like 20 feet wide, and I had never been on a boat that big. And I was like, oh my God, this thing is huge. But I learned how to work it, and it had kick-up rudders. It was a really crazy boat. It was built for speed. So it had fiberglass rudder tubes. It had dagger boards. The bottom was completely slick. It had 2 inboard 10 horsepower Yanmar engines, like, generator engines, shaft driven, which is very rare for cats. It had bow bulbs on the front because they had actually designed it to be too thin. And then it was like wave cutting bows. One of the first cats that ever had wave cutting bows, but they made them too thin. So the front had a propensity to like bury itself in the trough. So they made bow bulbs, and those were added later. It was just such a cool boat. It was plywood on top with just one really thin layer of fiberglass, and it had all these holes in it everywhere. Like it looked like somebody had gone and like just routed out all these pieces of the plywood to make it lighter. And that's exactly what they did. This boat was built to be like a guy's toy, and I was trying to take it around the world. I mean, it's what I could afford at the time. So remember, I said,
could you make that thing go?
Oh man, I got 22 knots out of that beast. Yeah, it was a 38 foot cat. Oh yeah. Anytime you have a top speed with sailing, I'm pretty sure that's always surfing.
Yeah, surfing something. Yeah. What was the cruising speed on it?
I sailed it pretty conservatively. So if it went up to 13, I stopped it. I always like slowed it down. So
that's quite quick.
Yeah. So I would often go like 11, 12 knots, but if it got up to 13, it got a little scary, especially at night. And then if it was really blowing, it would always do 16 knots. I mean, if I was running with a storm, it was going 16. And then the one time it was 22 is just like, it's like the 60-foot boat with the theoretical hull speed of 8.9 is doing 17 knots surfing down a wave. Is the same theory. So, it was really fast boat, but the problem was it wasn't built for what I was doing. I was taking big waves, and I was like riding. I remember coming from Bocas del Toro, Panama to Puerto Lindo, Panama to go through the canal. My there's a lot of torsional flex on those boats, so the main beam and the rear beam take a lot of force, and the main beam snapped on the front, and it opened up the hull, and I was like, I could see the moon coming through, and I was like, holy shit, like, what am I gonna do? I'm way offshore. I'm doing 13 knots. It's huge waves. I'm gonna take a Sharpie marker, and I'm gonna just mark the crack, and if it gets any bigger, I'll just keep going down. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just went down there like every 5 minutes to look at this crack, and I'm like, is it getting bigger? Is it getting bigger? And it didn't. Actually, the boat held together well. And then it was a real pain in the ass to fix it. But I ended up having to scarf in another piece of wood. Anyway, the boat was built out of wood and plywood, and it wasn't even like real good wood. It was like 2x4s, like not, hardwood or anything. So let's see. I broke the main beam in Panama. I ran out of money in Panama. I'd started the YouTube channel, but I remember I told you I had 135 grand. So I paid 65 for the boat, and then I put like another 15 or 20 into it. And so I still had like 30 or 40 grand that I just completely blew through when I met my ex-girlfriend. I met her I did solo for about 4 months. And then I met Kim in Mexico. And then we just spent like, I think 5 or 6 months just having fun and blowing through all my money. It was great. It was
We've
great.
All done it. It's fine.
Yeah. It was one of the best times. It's really weird to have that juxtaposition of like, I have to save everything for 4 years and like every single penny counts. And then I don't care. I just want to go have fun and whatever. Money doesn't matter. And then when you're down to your last 10 grand, you're like, oh shit, how the hell am I going to pay for new sails? I mean, I was sailing around with this huge, like 9-foot rip in my jib. It was so funny, man. I looked like such a bum. Also one of the best times of my life. And the YouTube channel started making money right about that time that we were running out. So I had 10 grand left. I remember this. Oh no, I had 15 grand left. I put 5 grand in Bitcoin. Like I timed it perfectly for the top, and then it fell like 50%. So I lost like 3 grand in a week. And I'm like, oh my God. my girlfriend convinced me to get out of Bitcoin because she was like, "You're gonna go gray, dude. Just get out. We'll figure out how to make money on a different way," which was super funny. And then looking back on it anyway, and then I had like 11 or 12 grand left, and new sales were 7 grand, and I was like, "Shit, okay,
whoa, that's a lot."
I'm not, yeah." But it was I wanted a spinnaker too, so that's a spinnaker, a jib, and a main.
Fair enough. That's all right.
Yeah, not too bad. So I was like, look, that's how we're gonna go. So if we don't have sales, we're not gonna go anywhere, and we're gonna be stuck in freaking Panama. I don't want to be stuck here. So I'm just gonna spend the last, we'll have 5 grand left to figure out what we're gonna do. I mean, I can always like try to borrow money from somebody, I guess. So I spent it on the sales, which was a really good decision because that last 5 grand, we were able to stretch that out for about 6 months to let the YouTube channel kind of build. And all we did was we sat in Panama for 8 months and worked on the YouTube channel, and it ended up going up really fast. It was like 5 months of solid work, 40 hours a week, each of us. And we were starting to make, $1,000 a month so we could actually leave. Still didn't have enough money. So is this
like you're making a video every week and you're putting loads of time in editing it, that type of stuff?
Yeah, and learning how to do it and buying the equipment to do it. And like, we had no idea what we were doing. So it was a good learning experience. I think we had a drone. I had bought a good camera and a drone. And like, I knew that I was going to start this thing because I started the YouTube channel when I left the dock, when I first bought the boat. So like my first 2 videos are me at the dock, putting on the, like making a hard top for the boat and getting it ready to go. And then a tour of it. And
yeah. I actually watched that video when it first came out because I was thinking about. Yeah, I did, like way back. I watched that. I was like, and because you did it in quite a creative way as well. I remember you did something with the tubes, like you had them bending or something. I can't remember.
Oh yeah. I took PVC tubing like you would use underground for water. And I heated it up with a heat gun and then just bent it and then just kind of like cut it off and then glued it to PVC lumber that I had chopped into blocks. And that was like my makeshift tubing. And then I took that tubing to the guy and I was like, make me that. And he made it out of aluminum, and it was great. I had that actually had the added benefit, which I've realized now with boating. If you put any kind of structure on your boat, it's a handhold. So I did that with the Oyster too. I put a big frame with 1600 watts of solar, and it's great. I have handholds everywhere for people. And like when I went sailing the first time with some friends with that hardtop that I had made, I looked around and every single person was grabbing one of those bars. And I was like, yeah, this is great.
For something else as well.
Didn't even really freaking realize like integrating handholds. That's actually how you know a good boat manufacturer, because they integrate handholds everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good for like if you just in your bimini or your spray hood as well. Like when we get our next boat, I've decided like everywhere possible, like on the sides, on the roof, we're just going to get like little handholds welded on out of stainless tubing because they're so handy and necessary as well.
Especially outside. Outside, having things to grab onto outside is
yeah. We've seen a couple where you got like this on the side of the spray hoods. There is like right on the side, they've just got a bracket, just like some stainless steel tubing welded on. So as you walk around your spray hood, you've got something to grab onto on the spray hood rather than just like trying to grab onto the top of it, which is exactly. I mean, it's great because that's the dangerous part. Like you've got your rigging, you've probably got some handholds down on the saloon roof, coach roof, whatever you call it. So yeah, coming around that corner, that's like the dangerous part. So yeah, it's really useful to have them there.
The best manufacturers of Dodgers put a rail on the outside of the entire Dodger on the front, like the leading or the trailing edge, I guess you could say.
Oh yeah, the trailing edge.
On the trail inside the cockpit, and then on the bimini as well. If you can mount a rail that goes all the way along the bimini and have 2 big rails there, it costs a lot of money to do that, to integrate that in. But if you're gonna do that, I would absolutely recommend, and you can do it creatively. You don't have to have a stainless steel rail going around the bimini. The way that I did it was I just used Nitacore, and then I used PVC lumber, and then cut out a channel, and then stuck the lumber over the channel, and then that was my handhold. I just routed off the hard edges, and it was super easy, and it lasted forever. I don't think I ever even repainted that thing. It was great. I loved that hard top. I was super proud of it. I'm like, I built that.
Yeah.
So, so now we're in Panama, right? And we're broke, and we're just now starting to make money, but we still don't have enough money to go through the Panama Canal. So we borrow $2,000 from my girlfriend's sister, and we go through the Panama Canal, which we actually repaid. We repaid that years later. And so we're through the canal. Oh, before we go through the canal, I met these girls that were running a charter, basically pirate boat called One World, in Bocas del Toro, and they had a guy down just as a friend, and his name was Lewis. He had a big expedition boat up in Alaska, and he was like, "Hey man, go to Isla del Coco. When you get through the canal, you need to see it." You know, like a lot of people, they try to get across as soon as they get through, but that side of the world, you know, you got to go and see it. You got to go upwind a little bit to get to it, but basically you got to go from the Panama Canal through it into the Pacific, up north to Costa Rica, check in there, go into take a bus for 9 hours, get permission to go to the island, spend, I think it costs like $150 a day. And then you can take the 4-day trip out to Isla del Coco. But the story behind Isla del Coco was insane. I mean, the treasure of Lima was supposed to be there, and it was like the last pirate controlled island, and it's like a shark sanctuary. There's every kind of shark you could ever want to see, tigers and Galapagos and hammerheads, and I swam with all of them there. Beautiful place. I mean, the only way to get there is either dive charter, which is like, I don't know, $600 or $700 a day, or private sailboat. It's notoriously difficult passage, but we got really lucky, and we got like one tack the whole way. And so from there, it was a really easy tack to get to Ecuador. We wanted to see Ecuador, maybe go to the Galapagos. So we didn't have the money to go to the Galapagos. So we went to Ecuador, refit the boat there. We didn't have any money to go to the Galapagos still, because we had just refit the boat and put a water maker on it. And then we went to Easter Island. And I swear, man, this was like 3 years ago. We got blessed with the most impressive weather window that we couldn't have asked for better weather. So we went one tack, 18 days, all the way down to Easter Island. And it was such a beautiful sail. One of the best sails of my life. We didn't catch hardly any fish. It's kind of a dead zone there. But we also didn't have any big problems. We almost hit a guy, though, 500 miles out to sea with a one-engine Ponga without a bimini, fishing for tuna out of Manta, Ecuador. And we stopped, and we were like, "What are you doing?" And he's like,
miles out.
500 miles.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's insane. We almost hit him.
Yeah.
And so we stopped and we talked to him. We're like, "What are you doing out here?" And they're like, "There's all these huge purseiner boats. Purseiner boats are the ones with like a helicopter on the front and a boat on the back. And what they do is the helicopter goes and like corrals the fish, and then the big boat drives next to the fish, and the little boat goes off the back and puts the net out, and they just get like the whole school of fish, which is horrible." But I absolutely do not agree with that practice. I think that should be illegal. But there's just no way of policing the water. It sucks that so many people are raping the water.
Well, you can police the marinas, and you could
and you could make
equipment. It can be done.
Yes, exactly. And
fishing
I'm all
lobby
for
is
that.
too powerful.
Well, we need to get together, man. I mean, there's got to be some kind of grassroots movement we can do to like bomb these boats or something.
There was a documentary on it. Like, I think it was that Seaspiracy. Was it the Seaspiracy documentary where they were talking about it?
I didn't see that one, but I'm sure they probably.
Oh, actually, man. Yeah, like, listen, if you don't like watching sea life just die for absolutely no reason, which I can't imagine anybody does, I'd advise not watching that, because it will probably confirm a bunch of what you already know, but it'll just make you hate the world. So it's up to you if you watch it.
I can just
talks a lot about that practice of fishing.
You can just look on the AIS maps of the world and see how many Chinese fishing ships are out there, and that alone will make your heart sink.
Yeah, mate. Even off the coast of the UK,
water.
Like everywhere. Yeah,
we're raping the water.
Yeah, so another side effect of that is, I mean, as well as them just catching like turtles and dolphins, and then them just dying for no reason, whatever they catch in the nets. Like even in Spain, like we've been in marinas in Spain, and we've seen fishing boats pull in and just like throw dead dolphins and turtles overboard as they're entering marinas. Yeah. Great. And you'd think like Europe has got some type of protection for sea life, and no.
Or
but none of them care.
How about these assholes. I mean, I'm going to leave this one in. If you do this, you're an asshole that cut the fins off sharks and just throw them back in the water alive, like to basically drown.
Yeah.
Or suffocate.
Yeah, it's
really
stupid.
That is who's the guy that decided that was okay?
Well, it's for soup, isn't it? That's they do it because it's like a delicacy of soup. But mate, it's the same as taking the tusks off elephants. Like you've got like criminal networks in Africa and stuff. They just kill like these ginormous animals just for a tusk to sell on a black market for like. I mean, I don't know who's even buying. Like, who sits at home, looks at the TV, and goes, "You know what would look great there on the wall? A tusk." Like, who's that person? You know, it's just weird.
I'm glad that they've made that illegal. They've made it illegal finally. But
it's
you know what?
The same as that in a way.
The world needs a giant awakening, which I think may happen in our lifetime, where we elevate our culture to, you know, respect life and respect sentient beings. But that's another conversation.
Yeah, that's a bigger conversation, how we get to those solutions. Yeah.
But if anybody listening is part of a movement where, you know, you're trying to stop these person boats, I would absolutely want you to contact me, please. I would love to use my influence to help with that. Anyway, so where are we now? Oh, we're in Isla Del Coco. So Isla Del Coco is amazing, beautiful place. It's run by some I think like 4 or 5 rangers that live there. Cool place. If you're ever in the Pacific and you're going through the canal, go up north and see that. It's worth the trip, and the trip is cool too. There's a lot of really neat spots that everybody misses. So we went down to Ecuador. Ecuador is another amazing place. Cheap, cool, nice people. They had just gotten rocked by a hurricane, so we raised some money for the town there. And really corrupt, though. I mean, very interesting place. Not dangerous, just corrupt, and the streets are shit, and they're like the people are super
like
cool.
Corrupt at the top, but poverty.
Yeah. Like they, while we were there, they redid the streets like 4 fucking times, and they never got the streets correct, and they just kept doing it just because whoever was deciding to redo the streets probably had friends and was pocketing most of the money that was supposed to go into rebuilding the city. Because it was demolished. I think it was like an 8.2 on the Richter scale, and it like leveled the city, man. There was huge cracks. It was nuts. But I absolutely recommend Ecuador. Ecuador is an amazing place. We didn't unfortunately get to go to Galapagos, but we went to Easter Island, and then from Easter Island we got to go to every island in Pitcairn. There's 4: Ducie, Pitcairn, Henderson, and Oweno. Not in that order. These 2 are switched. Ducie, Henderson, Pitcairn, Oweno. And we spent like a week at every one of them, and it was just the water there is just insane. If you guys are thinking,
what time of year was it when you went? Because you said you got like a perfect weather window. What time of year was that?
It was this time. It was May, January, March, April, May. We left Ecuador in May, and this is all documented, so you can find out exactly what day. But this is the time to go. And I think they're just now opening up. So I think people are just now starting to go back there. So maybe one of these adventurous YouTube channels will go there. I really want to go there again, but I'm not going that direction. So we got to go to every island on Pitcairn, and Pitcairn they've documented as like being the best water in the world. They found the deepest coral there at like about 130 feet, which is about 40 meters, which is amazing that coral can live because it needs light to live. And most of the light is absorbed by the water down there. It has to be ultra clear for coral to grow that deep. We met some of the scientists that lived on Henderson, because nobody lives on Henderson. There's not a water source there, but it's such a wild, crazy island, and documented some of the plastic pollution that this really remote island has. I mean, it's just covered in plastic, and no one lives there. No one has ever lived there, and it's just that's a really good testament about how dirty human beings are and what we're doing to the planet.
Yeah, that reminds me, actually. I read an article on it. I think it was only about a week ago or a couple of weeks ago, but it was showing you photos of some of the, I don't know if it was beaches or like rocky beaches, I'm not sure, but it was showing you photos of the amount of plastic that was actually on there. And it was like, there's nobody here. It's in the middle of nowhere, and it's literally covered in plastic. And it's like, that's shit. Because it's just come from some city somewhere, or, someone's just dumping it in thousands of miles away, and it's all ended up on this, tiny place. Yeah, it was like pretty soul destroying reading it.
Yeah, well, it's right in the South Pacific Gyre. So everybody's heard of the North Pacific Garbage Patch, which they call Garbage Island, but it's not really an island. It's just a place where the gyre
area
in the center of a gyre that is covered in trash, because that's kind of how the currents work. This one just happens to have an island there. So the island gets, trash and flip flops and a lot of buoys, a lot of fishing buoys and fishing nets. And we tried to clean up. I mean, we took what we could, but you can't really hardly make a dent in that.
Yeah, they were saying like just under 80% of the trash that they were picking up on those islands was fishing equipment. It was mostly nets.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nets, line, that type of stuff. That's
what I've seen in my travels is 80% of what. If I see it on coral, I'll take some time and I'll get it off, because I don't want it to kill the coral. But some of these fishing lines are this big around, and they're polypropylene, and they're super hard. And then what's really crazy is in that island, since it's been happening for so long, the coral has started growing around the stuff. So some of the stuff is like, you'll see this bright orange, thick walled plastic buoy, and then the coral's like grown around it, and it was wicked, man. It was kind of sad. Not even kind of sad. It was super sad. We were super upset about it. We made a very good episode that week about that, documenting that.
Do you know anyway. This one? Oh yeah, go on, carry on. I've got a habit.
No.
Of course, yeah.
Go ahead. You can ask a question.
Yeah, no, there's a documentary on. I'm not sure what channel it's on, because I've only watched it on YouTube, but it's like After Humans or something. So it shows you, like, if humans go day one, what would happen to the Empire State Building? Day 1000, what would it look like? Day 1 million, day 10 million, and then it basically shows you eventually, with no humans, the world just becomes this utopian paradise with palm trees everywhere, basically. And
sick.
And there was specific ones showing you like coral reefs and what happens to them, and they will grow back remarkably quickly if we stop like blowing them up, to make space for whatever, or taking speedboats through them with tourists on. Like they will improve like real fast. But yeah, we need to actually put the work in to do that. But it's actually a cool documentary.
There can be legislations. I mean, I don't want humans to die out. I'm not a proponent for that, but I am a proponent for legislation that leads to the earth being protected. And some of that shit is so easy that we just need to agree as a human being, as a species, say, look, let's stop using copper-based paint. Let's stop like using tin-based paint, because what happens is that ablative paint, you don't even have to like hit the coral. All you got to do is leave your boat on top of it for a day. And some of that ablative paint starts to fall off, microorganisms. And as soon as any copper or tin hits coral, it dies. It'll kill it. If you want proof of that, look at any marina, and there's no coral inside marinas because the boats are all sloughing this shit paint. So we need to have a better way to there's got to be some other way to do it other than we're going to paint all this really caustic crap on the boat that sloughs off when things attach to it, so we don't have to go down there and clean it. That's ridiculous.
I think the issue is, when it comes to problems like this, is like the actual solutions for these problems, they don't sound incredible. They don't sound sexy. It's nothing a politician can like win an election on. Do you know what I mean? Like the stuff that isn't necessarily going to help, by making everybody get an electric car within the next 10 years. That's really nice, but it's not going to save the oceans. As much as they say it will, it's not going to have any massive impact, not before, serious problems start to happen, like with loads of coral reefs dying off. But yeah, small stuff like that could actually make a change. But it would require the entire planet to agree on something.
And that's the problem.
Exactly.
I've always said, if you're going to invent or innovate something, make something to make people lazier. Because human beings are inherently lazy, and they don't want, like, you're never going to get a product where it's like, hey, buy my product, and then you're going to have to clean your bottom 3 times as much. No one's going to buy it. But if you can invent something that's like, look, we're going to put Teflon on the bottom of your boat, you'll never have to paint it again. Yes, it's going to cost 20 grand, but it's fine for the environment because it doesn't slough off. Then you got like somebody that's like, oh yeah, that'll work. So all we need to do is just get better at that kind of thinking. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying, man.
I mean, governments could put money into stuff like that, and it would be worth doing, especially in, Australia, for an example. That would be great. It's an insulated island. They don't get that many boats just randomly coming into their waters. It's mostly shipping, the odd sailing boat, that type of stuff. They could legislate that like super quick, where they could just like put money into, that part of the industry. They could go to all the companies that make anti-foul or bottom paint, bottom paint, and just say, listen, we want you to go in this direction. Here's a massive chunk of cash. Put some effort into R&D and try and do it. I don't know why
they don't even need the crazy thing is they don't even need R&D. They just need to copy one of these like local places that's already done it. Look at Bonaire. Bonaire decided in the 60s that they were going to base their entire economy on the water. So it's the number 4 dive destination in the world. There's legislation that says that like no companies can dump anything, even on the tierra or on the land. Sorry, I'm speaking Spanish. There's all these rules and regulations. You can't anchor there. It's very difficult to actually have a boat there, just because their entire economy is based on the beauty of their water. All they have to do is just macro that out. Like, okay, what would work for Costa Rica? What would work for Ecuador? That like, you can't absolutely do everything because all of their economy is based on the water tourism. You can't just take that and make everybody's economy based on that. So there would have to be some bending of that, but that's the way to do it.
See, where I think the R&D needs to come in is they need to encourage the private sector players to make alternatives that are safer for the environment as cheap as the normal options. That's how it's going to work. Because otherwise you'll have a situation like California where they over legislate like crazy to keep everything looking clean. The place ends up costing a fortune because stuff costs so much money. Doesn't end up being that clean anyway, really. And it just makes people's lives harder. Like refitting boats in California is an absolute headache. Like I spoke to a number of people who were like, we have to go to like Nevada to buy paint. I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, we have to go to like another state to buy glue. I'm like, this is crazy. They need to like make it cheap and easy for people, and then it will work. Because if it's the cheapest and the easiest option, and it's good for the environment, like where's the negative in that?
It's a no-brainer at that point. That's what they need to make it for people, is a no-brainer.
Yeah. So they need to put some work in. We need to make them put work in. Whatever way it works.
I mean, if you're going to subsidize something or put some money into something, maybe somebody should start a nonprofit where they are the ones that subsidize these things. Like, look, I've got all these donations. I've got $30 million. I'm giving out money for people that buy this product because it's, I'll make it cheaper for you. It wouldn't be a bad idea. People spend a lot of money on ocean cleanup. I mean, people could donate to, like this company that's basically just subsidizing for people to make the right decisions with their boat.
Yeah. I don't think there's any massive organization like that. Like, when it comes to like building water wells in Africa, there's go-tos, or, like rebuilding Haiti, there was a go-to for that. There is nothing for like generally just making the oceans cleaner, like on a personal level. There's lots of ocean cleanups, but not, like little differences that will actually help. Like what you were just talking about, the anti-foul, for example. There's no
maybe
one really,
you and I should start that up, bud.
Maybe we're going to have some spare time coming over from the Azores. So I think we'll figure something out. Yeah.
Let's talk. No shit. I mean, it's just one of those ideas where all you got to do is put some effort to it and put some emotion to it and make it happen.
Yeah. Good work. Right. Back to your story. Everything. So you are in Ecuador.
Okay. I'm in Ecuador. No. I'm in Easter Island now. And then going through Pitcairn, we went through all 4 Pitcairn. Oh man, Pitcairn was so amazing. We ended up spending a week there. We met the guy that runs the only bar on the island, which his bar is basically like his den. And his name's Pirate.
He turned his man's room into a bar. Right.
They've all the Pitcairner have Kiwi accents. And I can't do the Kiwi accent, but they're funny as shit. So this guy's huge and he's got like 27 earrings and he looks like a pirate. And he's like, oh, I'm a pirate. And just so fun to hang out with. And he's a rocker too. You'd love him, dude. You guys would get along. So we spent like multiple nights. I ended up crashing at his house and just leaving my boat out on anchor and being like, well, if I lose the boat, at least I've got a good story. Partying with this pirate in Pitcairn. That sounded kind of cool. Partying with the pirate in Pitcairn. So And when I say that we got blessed by weather, we really did, because right after we left, we got hit by this crazy storm. It was like 3 days of 45 knots. And I know of I met a guy in Gambier just after we arrived there, that like his life's dream was to go to Pitcairn, and he spent 20 days sailing down there, and then it got hit by this weather, and they were waiting offshore and they couldn't do it, and they tried to anchor, and then they ended up hitting another boat, and then having to go to Gambier, and it kind of got ruined. And he's like, well, I got to see it. And I'm like, oh, you don't want to hear my stories. I will tell you guys one other one. There was these kingfish there that were just freaking huge, man. Like, okay. I told my girlfriend to get in the water and spear one of them, and she comes up with this fish the size of her. I mean, like, it had to be like 40-pound kingfish. And so we're taking pictures of it with her, she's got it slung over her shoulder and shit. And so we call my buddy, and we're like, hey, bring your ATV down here. We got this huge fish. We're going to give it all away because we can't eat it. And so I think we fed like 6 families that day. It was really good. I felt really good about it. It's pretty neat. They have a big turtle that lives there, like a huge gargantuan turtle that's 100 years old or something, maybe 80 years old, real famous turtle. Okay. We got to meet her. And the volcano is so steep that it's a workout living on that island. It's a pretty cool place. There's only 50 people that live there. And if you don't know the story, it's the Mutiny on the Bounty is the story. So if you can go look that up or watch the movie, it's a really, really compelling story. And these are all 7th generation.
How did the people end up on there? Was it like, are these like colonial travelers, or was there indigenous people there and they are still there, and it's those indigenous people? Like, how's it populated?
The story's wicked, man. I'll tell you a condensed version. So in the 18th century, 1700s, the slaves in the West Indies were running out of food. And so in the Pacific, they have breadfruit. They didn't have breadfruit in the Caribbean. So they the British sent a boat out to go get breadfruit from the Caribbean and bring it back to the West Indies to plant it so the slaves could have something to eat. On the way, the captain was such a dick that the first mate ended up getting most of the crew together, and they mutinied after they got to Tahiti.
Oh, shit.
And they ended up like telling a bunch of the Tahitians that they were going day sailing and stealing them too. And they set this guy not ashore. They set him out to sea in one of the dinghies. So he was in an 18-foot boat with 18 men. And at this time, that region of the world was a little bit tribal and not safe for a bunch of European guys to show up. So they ended up sailing that dinghy 3,400 miles all the way back to Great Britain, and they didn't lose anybody. Pretty amazing. That is amazing.
No way.
And the mutineers took the big ship, the Bounty, which is why they call it Mutiny on the Bounty, with their women and slave men from Tahiti. And they've tried to find an island that they could live on, that they could basically take over and live out the rest of their mutinous lives alone. And they picked a couple of them, and they got pushed out by the locals. So they found this island. Everybody knew that this island existed, but nobody had ever really been there. So they found this thing, and when you see Pitcairn, it's like Gotham City. It's like one of those places that's just imposing and treacherous, and it looks mean. And they rammed their boat aground, set it on fire, and ended up living there. And these guys are the 7th generation from these mutiny pirate people.
Oh, no way!
And yeah.
So they're actually descendants of the people who arrived on that boat.
They're direct descendants of the people that arrived on the boat, and that's amazing. All the places around the island are named like, Jeff's Drop, because that's where Jeff fell off and died. Stuff like that.
Right,
at the last guy that was alive from all of the people on the boat was his last name was Adams. So the name of the town that's there in the crater of this imposing volcano is Adamstown. That's the name of the town. And it's an interesting place, interesting people. The British ended up owning it because it was a British boat that got there, and Brits, they ended up going there after that. They stake claim to it, and that's their only stronghold in the South Pacific. The Brits don't have anything else, so they end up subsidizing the people to live there, and like giving, they're trying to make it easy for people to live there. So they're giving a stipend to everybody, and They basically just grow their own food, and it's very lush ground, but it's very rocky and steep, and it's like this huge volcano that blew up at one point, and then in the crater is the only place that these people live. It's insanely cool, man. You got to see it before you die.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah, and there's movies that have been made about this. I think a couple called Mutiny on the Bounty. It's a great story. Yeah, or you can watch the Sailing Zingaro YouTube channel for the entire story.
You can see it on there.
We made a video about it. Got some really cool drone shots. The guy that I told you, Pirate Paul, he ended up driving us all around the island and stuff. The people are there, cool shit. So we get done with there. We get hit by this nasty storm. And in this storm, it was so bad for us that we just set the autopilot and ran with it. And we had so much sea room that we were just like, we'd come out and be like, oh God, and just go back in because we couldn't see shit. There's no reason to be outside. So we were just like looking at the charts and be like, okay, hopefully we don't hit anything. Luckily we didn't. And that's how we rode out pretty much our whole way to Oeno. And when that storm was over, we were right off the coast of Oeno, and we stayed there for another week, spearfishing big fish. It was amazing. And then we did Gambier, Tahiti. While we were in Tahiti, we met a guy that lived in, he was from an island called Mai-O. And Mai-O is also a really interesting island. It's called the Forbidden Island because they don't let tourists there anymore, because there was a French guy that went there and started a store, and then he started giving people things on IOUs. And then one day, years later, he just calls in all the IOUs and demands all of their land. So this guy ended up owning like 98% of the island. And then he tried to sell the island to the same people that were doing, what do they call it? Phosphorus mining. And that basically like screws up the entire island. And the locals were like, oh my God, what do we do? And they called the government, and they're like, you guys need to intercede here. So the government stepped in, paid the guy off, kicked him out of the island, and made it a commune island, and then made it so no foreigners are allowed to go. No one can ever go in there unless you're invited by the locals. And since we were taking one of their own back, we were treated like royalty, and we got total tours of the island. Unfortunately, this is like one of the times where we did film it, and we still have that footage, but we ended up breaking up after the wreck, and we were like a year and a half behind. So by the time we were all done with the breakup and stuff, it was too hard for us to go through that. Maybe one day later I'll put out that stuff, because it is so cool, man. The people there were awesome.
People would want to see that.
Yeah, I think so. The people there were amazing. It was a really cool time. They really use, it's a community. They make their own, they make the palapa roofs for like all the big hotels in the world. They're really, really good at doing that. They make it out of the bandanus leaf. I have this all on video, man. I should go back and make those into videos. I think people would.
Yeah, you should make that, man. Just as like a one-off, like just show a really cool place. That'd be really good.
Yep. One day. I still have it. I'm not going to throw it out. So anyway, we spent like 6 months in probably 4 months in Tahiti, because we didn't have visas, and they only give you 3 months. So I think we overstayed by about a month. And we had to leave because the cyclone season was coming. So we were like, look, let's go to the Line Islands and then go up to Hawaii, spend the winter in Hawaii while the cyclone season's going on down here. And then as soon as it stops, we'll go back down. We'll get another 3 months there, and then we can just keep going. And that was our plan. But so it took us 2 months to sail from Hawaii through all the Line Islands up to Hawaii. And by the time we got there, we were out of fuel. The boat was tired. We were in the best shape of our lives, and that was one of the best adventures we had been on this trip. I was in like 3 sailing magazines right then. I was writing for Sail. I just felt like, I mean, my YouTube channel was doing really well. I felt like I was on top of the world. And then in one night, it freaking ended because my boat broke and I lost everything. I actually thought I did, but hindsight, I should have just stayed on track. Anyway, I had lost my boat. My girl left right after that. I had lost my business because I had need a boat to have a sailing channel. Mm-hmm. So I went into a really dark place after that. And it was really hard for me to pop back out and see. It took me like 2 or 3 weeks to be like, okay, what am I going to do about this? And so I started researching crowdfunding because I've never done any crowdfunding. And I decided that like my story and this situation would be good for Kickstarter. Kickstarter has a rule that you need to have a product. And I do have a product, my sailing channel. It's a series, and that's the product. So I spent 30 freaking days. All I did was read books and research successful Kickstarter campaigns, like what makes it successful. Like basically what it comes down to is you have to make a campaign that's very easily readable, like a 4-year-old can understand, and you have to delegate where all the money's going to go and why you would like to, people to help you make this thing. And if you can do that concisely through a lot of pictures, everything's JPG. There's no like text really. There's text in the JPG to explain the pictures, but basically it's all just pictures. You can be successful on Kickstarter. So we had a really good story, and I actually elicited the help of a couple of other sailing channels, Ben and Ashley. Ben was amazingly helpful. I love that guy. Did you ever interview them yet?
No, not yet.
From Nahoa, you gotta meet those guys. They're so cool.
Oh, I've watched a couple of videos. They seem really nice.
Yeah, really cool people. So started the Kickstarter campaign, ended up raising 80 grand, and used it to buy this boat. And when I bought this boat, I put my feelers out there with my people, and I was like, look, I'm looking for a boat. I've got like right around 100 grand. I don't have $1 more than that. And I'd like something that's, enough for a few people to be on, that's comfortable, that's safe. I don't want another Crowther cat because I almost died on one. If I got on another one, you would be amazed at how many links I got for like the same kind of catamarans. And I did not, that's the last boat I wanted. Now I'd probably take one, but at the time I was like, I had a little bit of PTSD from cats. From it. Yeah. And so I ended up getting a call from this guy, and he's like, look, I got this friend, her husband died a few years ago. They have this boat that's been on the hard for a number of years in Curacao. They don't know what to do with it. It has a lot of nostalgic factor for her, but she needs to get rid of it. So why don't I just put you guys together? And so the boat wasn't even for sale. And I talked to the lady, and she was like, yeah, I want this for it. And she wouldn't go down on the price. And I'm like, well, babe, you don't even realize how much work it's going to be to rebed everything. And all the seals and all the rubber is going to be gone, all the pumps. And she just wouldn't budge. So I ended up having to fly to her, like on a whim kind of thing. Like, I'm flying up there and I'm going to sit you down. And I paid a guy to go and take a shitload of pictures. And I just showed her all the pictures and showed her all the work and told her that, like, look, I'm the guy to do this. Your boat is going to end up in a trash can unless you get somebody that's coherent, that knows what they're doing. Because this is a lot of work. This is a huge job. It ended up taking me 11 months to get her into shape. And then on her maiden voyage, I almost sank it because I didn't change out. I changed out all the through holes, but I didn't change out the speed wheel, just because I've had one of those on like every boat. You don't really think about that thing. You just take it out. Okay, good. Put it back in, put the cap on. Well, the waves were so bad, and the current was the contrary. And we took this big wave, and it pushed so much energy up into that thing. It broke the ring, because the ring was old. 30 years old, and it freaking opened up an 1.5 inch through hole. And at the time, to be completely honest, I don't really know if I should say this or not, but I hadn't bought insurance yet, because I was waiting to like get off the hard and get into the water, and then I'd have insurance. And because I hadn't done that, my thought process was just totally screwed. I'm usually good in situations like that. Like after years and years of being out on the water, you can't just freeze. You have to freaking act. But at the time, I'm like, I cannot believe I'm going to lose 800 people's money. I'm never going to be able to like have a YouTube channel or be taken serious again. I am so fucked. Seriously.
Destroying boats everywhere.
Oh my God. It was like the worst day. That was worse than ripping the cat in half. At least that was something that like wasn't really my fault. This was totally my fault. So I ended up like, saving the boat and getting the water out. And now the floors in the boat are totally screwed. I got to redo the floors. That's the main thing. But the water didn't get up to where it like screwed up any of the joinery or anything. I got really lucky. And I had really good friends that came down and helped me clean it all out, because I got the boat in within like 3 or 4 hours. And then all my friends came down and we like hosed out the entire boat, took everything out. And Didn't cause any major damage except for the veneer on the floor. So,
Okay.
so yeah, that's really funny part. But I really like this boat. I mean, not a lot of people go from. I think I got like a little over 40,000 miles on that cat, and now I've got about maybe 10,000 miles on this boat, and I like monohulls. I mean, I hadn't really sailed monohull very far before, and now that I've been offshore on this thing and seen the differences and the way that it moves, it's comfy, bro. It's nice not to have to like reef down and drag drogues and be worried about flipping the boat. I was always worried about flipping that cat. I mean, like all the time, even 3 years into it. Yeah, it was really light, and it just like I flew a hull a couple times, and it was just it was really easy to go really fast. And as soon as the wind, like, you know, when at night sometimes the wind will pipe up, like you're having a nice sail, it's 18 knots, and then at night it gets to like 20, 25 or something. And with that light cat, it was like 4 or 5 knots difference, and that's a lot. That's a big change. So I kind of like going, you know, 8 knots everywhere, or 7, you know, and I realized actually with this boat, this is a 48-foot boat. My other one was a 38-foot boat, but it was a cat. So the median speed is 6.7 with both boats, like over 10,000 miles. It's 6.7. That's it, and it's crazy because this one's way more comfortable for the 6.7. So
yeah, I was going to say, you probably feel like you're going slow in that, and you probably felt like you're going fast in the other one, even though it would have gone way quicker.
Yeah, well, I would go faster all the time, a lot, but I wouldn't go faster as like a mean speed.
Yeah.
So I would say I like monohulls better now, but that might change later. And I wouldn't.
But you have
had cool.
You've got a very good example of a monohull.
You've got yeah. So, I've got it. Yeah, and that was on purpose. I know boats and I know oysters, and the plan was actually to buy this boat for an investment. Like I can get it relatively cheap. Whatever money I put into it, I'll probably get back. Like that's a good monetary investment. But I didn't realize how much I would fall in love with her, man. I really like this boat. I think this is one of the better ones I've ever even sailed on. I like it way better than my buddy's brand new Bavaria. I like it better than the Hansa 575. I like it better than the only boat I've been on that like compares to this one is I took a Mason 64, 63 across the Pacific, 21 days. That boat was equally as badass. It was just a work of art. I've got a series of videos on that one. From a sailing
perspective, like what makes this boat that you've got now so like unique and brilliant in your opinion? Like specifically the way it sails, the comfort of it. What difference do you think there is?
I think I would have to be an architect to properly answer that question for you. But I think that Holman and Pye, the people that designed oysters for a long time, with this boat specifically, and I've heard this from other people that are oyster fans, they just got the bottom just perfect.
They just made a nice one.
The way that the keel works, the way that the bottom is shaped, the way that the rudder is hung, the size of the rudder, the weight of the boat, the boat's full fiberglass, so it's a lot stiffer than a lot of other boats that are cord. The height of the mast is perfect. The way that the sails work, I wish that this had slab reefing. I think it would go a little faster, but I mean, I do 8 knots upwind all the time, and I'm not even pushing the boat that hard. It's just the boat's nice. I like it. It's a little bit of a rich man's boat. So instead of being like an Amel that's made to be a sailing boat and everything's kind of like pulled in a little bit and there's handholds everywhere and everything's kind of like you kind of tuck yourself into the seats and stuff. This is a way more open boat. So it's more for like the aesthetic, which is good or bad depending on your preferences. You know, do you want to be in a big, huge open space in big seas? No. But if you know what you're doing and you're careful, you're not going to get thrown all around.
I think it's a good medium. Do you know, like halfway to that point? Like, I mean, it's not like Bavarias are massive inside. They are like, you know, it's like going into a living room down there, and there isn't that much to grab onto. Oh, there is. You just have to take a walk to get to it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the problem. Is the walk. You don't want to do
the problem. That. Yeah, you crack your head while you're trying to hold on to something. But yeah, and then like Amels, like you can get a 50-something foot Amel, but like you've literally not got that much walking space. So I think that's like a great halfway point in between those two worlds. Like I mean, you do want something that's comfortable and nice as well as something that's seaworthy. You know, if you are living on it, it's, I mean, in my opinion anyway, I sail, but I won't particularly class myself as like, you know, an offshore sailor by any stretch, or I'm not a traditional sailor. You know, I would like to have a bit of comfort as well. And I think those types of boats are perfect for it.
I think human beings are adaptable to whatever circumstances they're in. And I think, like I said before, whatever boat you have, you'll make comfortable for yourself. This one's very nice. It's got very nice joinery. It's a rich man's boat. I think this thing cost like 1.1 million pounds in 93. So
in 93, shit.
Yeah, I'm very lucky to have it. I think it's one of the better boats that I've ever been on. And I love the boat, but like everything, it's a trade-off. You know, I love Amels too. I've been on quite a few of those Super Miramus. Those are bad boats, man. I wouldn't.
Mate, they're like tanks in the water. Like they will steam through any type of weather. They are so badass.
And I really like catch rigs too. That Mason that I took across the pond was a catch. Yeah, man. Let's see. I think we're almost to the point where we are now. I ended up taking this boat to Panama. I took it from Curacao to Aruba and Bonaire and did the ABC Islands a bunch of times, and then took it to Panama. Went and hung out with Plucky from Sailing into Freedom, which we ended up being besties, and met Colin from Parlay, and met Rick Moore from SSL. Went up to the boat show and met Brian. You just interviewed Brian, right?
Ryan from which?
From Delos.
Oh, Brian. Yeah, I thought you said Ryan. Sorry. Yeah, Brian. Yeah.
Yeah, Brian. Cool dude.
Yeah, very down to earth guy. Very chilled.
I totally fanboyed out with him too. I was like, oh, you inspired me to get a boat, and I've been sailing forever. And it was really funny. And then afterwards, I was like, oh my God, I just did that to Brian. Great.
Yeah, but I can imagine him just taking that so well, like laughing it off and just being like quite geeky about it. He's just a very nice guy.
Yeah, super nice dude. Good energy. And then after Panama, this is a hard story. When I was in Tahiti, we always had this porta boat. We left Florida and always had this shitty porta boat. And it had dunked my engine in the water so many times that I was on my second engine, and now this one broke down. And so we were like paddling this porta boat, even into Pitcairn. We had to paddle a porta boat into Pitcairn. And I was looking for companies that would give me a sponsorship. So I called a bunch of companies, and I got offered a few boats, but I really wanted an OC tender. And I called this guy, and I was like, he's like, you know what?
Nice.
He was like, you know what, man?
Nice.
Even La Vagabond has wanted one of these things, and we're just not set up for that kind of like throughput. So there's no real reason for us to give them a boat, because even if they, like 1 million people wanted one, we wouldn't be able to build them. So when we called them, it was just kind of a good timing for them, where they were starting to make a lot of money. And I shouldn't say a lot of money, but they were starting to like take off and
starting to ramp up.
Well, whatever money they made, they put back in their business. They're badass people. Anyway, so they have Moonwalker, which is a very, very cool, fast daggerboard cat that they sailed around the world on for like 6 years, and all very similar to my boat. And he was like, "You're freaking real, man. I'm gonna give you a dinghy." So he ended up coming up, and there was hull number 2 of the OC tenders, like the second one he ever built. He had left there for like a marketing reason, and so he gave it to us. He revamped it. He helped us revamp it and puts new stickers on it and new tread on it and stuff. And then I did an interview with him, and he's like, "Yeah, you take care of my boat, mate." And I'm like, "Are they all your boats?" He's like, "Every single one of my boat, man." He's just such a cool dude, cool guy. Hasn't sold out, hasn't done any kind of like distribution, doesn't want to. He's like, whatever end user has problems, they talk to me, and that's the way I want it. And I mean, nice. And now he's at the point where he could sell that business for like 10 million, I'm sure, but he doesn't want to. He wants it to be like, every boat's good. Every boat's mine. Every boat's touched by me. Every problem I deal with. I mean, I love his business model.
Good philosophy. Yeah.
Also, I just talked to him. So anyway, he offered me another boat. So it's me, Jimmy Cornell, and John Florence that have one of these boats from him. Those are the only 3 people. I don't know how I got into that group, but I feel very, very lucky to be part of that society. And I love Russ. And so I got him to agree. He's never opened his factory for anybody. It's like no picture policy. I got him to agree to take us on a tour of it live. So that's happening in like a month. And then do a podcast with me because he's such a cool cat. You'll love it. You'll have to check him out, man. And then more people just need to know about these boats. They're the best boats ever.
Yeah, they're incredible. When we were in Martinique, there was I think it was like a Lagoon 5 something, one of these ginormous hotel apartment things that floats.
Yeah.
There was they had an OC tender on the back, and they are so nice, but they are pricey. Like they're a couple of grand, aren't they? At least I think.
Yeah, they're not cheap, but they last forever. I mean, the one that we got was,
they last. Yeah.
The one that we got in Tahiti was 5 years old. We had it for another year. And then we gave it back to them. It went across the pond again with another Kiwi sailor. And then he gave it back to the company. And now it's with a fisherman in New Zealand. And that's hull number 2. So all these boats are still around. The problem is, like, I like to be perpetuate a green kind of lifestyle. And a lot of these dinghies, man, they end up in the trash, dude. I see a lot of them just garbage. So these ones don't, and that's another benefit. And I sound like such a salesman, but this isn't even like, I'm not getting paid for this. I just love these things. I'm so excited to have this thing.
Yeah, they are cool. I think if it's like, if you've just bought a boat and you're planning on a circumnavigation and you're going to be on it for like 10, 15 years, I would be like, yeah, then buy one of those, because that will actually last you that long. You don't have to go around replacing it every 2 years.
You can resell them. And they don't lose their value that much. They're a proper boat. It's like buying a real boat. That's the difference. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of an investment, but you know, those AB ultralights are almost the same price. Yeah. And the problem with those, actually. Yeah. The problem with those aluminum boats is the aluminum starts to oxidize, and then it gets underneath the glue for the Hypalon glue, and then it starts leaking. The water starts leaking in, and then it's really hard to fix. So there's problems, there's pros and cons with everything, just like every single decision in boating. Yeah, it's a good point, actually. As soon as that, because a couple of my friends, they've got that issue at the moment. It's like starting to pit and a few little tiny cracks, not cracks, micro holes. So it's leaking, but then it started to happen around the seals where the tubes are as well. And then, it's leaking through that area as well. So it's a bit of a pain. So what's the plan, mate? Like, what is going on next? I wish that I could tell you the finish of this story, man. I've got this idea, this $1 million idea that is going to rock the world, but I can't tell you that yet. I'm sorry. It's going to be, it's going to be super fun, and I'm doing something different, and I'm going to end up selling the Oyster. Unfortunately, I'm going to cry. I know it. I cried the day I sold Zing. I put a lot of my heart and soul and blood in this boat. But basically, we're going to go to Cuba for like one last hurrah. I'm meeting a bunch of boats there. It's going to be super fun. You're more than welcome to join me if you'd like. I'm going to spend a month going through southern Cuba. And then I'm going to go up to Florida, replace the floors, replace the cushions. My mom's driving down in her motorhome. Actually, I'm flying up, and I'm going to drive her motorhome down. And then she's going to live next to the boat. And this is the 4th boat that we've done together.
Wow. Okay.
Redone all the cushions. So it's kind of like a thing that we do. She's a sailor too. I got her into sailing, actually. And then as soon as the boat's all pristine and nice and I get, everything the way I like it, I'm going to sell her and use the money for the next venture. And I can tell you that it's going to be a new build. It's going to be a boating thing.
A new build.
Yep.
Complete new build.
Yep.
Like you are putting the fiberglass shells together, or are you thinking like plywood? How new build?
I can't. You're trying to get too much info out of me, bro.
Somebody will guess it if you go too deep. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't want to give it away. It's going to be super fun. It's going to be one of those things that's worth the wait,
Yeah, man, I love watching that stuff. There's a sailing channel on YouTube called MJ Sailing.
Oh, they're building a cat.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so cool to watch. Like they've literally just taken all of the components and they're just doing the job that a normal boat factory would do and putting it together. But it's so interesting to watch. Massive projects, like huge. Jesus, I'd never take on something like that. Really interesting.
Everything in life is like a scalable thing, right? So they did one boat and then sailed across the Pacific and then found a bigger boat, did that boat, like a complete refit, like taking the entire interior out. And now it's just like kind of in the next step, like, okay, well, we'll just build a boat and I think that was a financial decision too, because once they're done, they're going to have a $700,000 investment for something that they didn't spend 700 grand on. And plus it's a cat, and plus it's going to be new, and plus they can make it the same way. It's basically the same decisions that I'm doing this, but mine's going to be different.
So are you thinking of like seeing the season through in the Caribbean and then selling the boat and starting your new project?
I was going to do that, but I just got this offer from my buddy on the Bavaria to take the Bavaria off, and like May, June is the best time to do that. So now I'm just going to go straight. I might stop in DR to see a couple friends and maybe do a podcast with Bobby from Sailing Doodles. But I'm basically, I want to go to Cuba again while I'm here. And then I got to get the boat to Florida. I'm going to leave the boat in Florida, get on the Bavaria, go across the pond in the Bavaria, have the last, rager in Ibiza, fly back, work on the boat for a few months, and then put it for sale, and then start my next thing. And then I'll announce what I'm doing. But I can't do it now.
Well, mate, you picked a pretty good place to have your final rager. I mean, if you're going to go anywhere in Europe for a rager, Ibiza is probably the spot.
Yeah. My life is blessed, man. I really have good people around me, and I have great fans, and I have great I can't believe that I've been doing this long, and it's only possible by other people watching me, supporting me. It's pretty cool, and I love sharing it. So that'll be all documented too, and I'll have some really cool people. I got a couple of cool people that want to come out on that journey with the Bavaria.
Yeah, but you've worked hard for it, mate, and you've shared the experience with everybody, and you keep good company, good friends. Like that's what happens. Good things happen,
Yeah. We should cultivate this relationship, because now we have started a nonprofit and had plans to sail from Azores to Ibiza. So we're gonna be buddies.
We're getting there. And Ibiza. I'll show you some places. I've spent a bit of time there. You'll like it.
Cool. Can't wait.
Right. Well, listen, man, thanks for sharing your story with our listeners. It's fascinating. Like you've done a bit of everything. You've been a little bit of everywhere. It's a brilliant story, and I wish you the best of luck, well, mate. And I look forward to seeing you in the summer, it seems.
Yeah, pleasure. I hope to see you on the boat, and thanks for having me on the podcast. Much love, my friend.